For centuries, humans have looked up to the sky and wondered if we're alone. Could it really just be us out here, isolated on a spinning rock in a vast sea of ever-expanding nothingness? Or is it more likely that there are other planets like ours, inhabited by an intelligent species, and wondering whether or not we exist? Maybe we're not so special. Maybe there are dozens of planets just like us, separated by light years of vast distance, but looking up at the sky and dreaming all the same. And if we're not alone, and they are somewhere out there, wouldn't they also be trying to find us, just like we're trying to find them? On today's episode of Let's Get Haunted, we'll be rocketing through the stratosphere and hooking ourselves onto Jupiter's orbit as we come face to face with 3I Atlas, an interstellar object currently making its way through our solar system that might just be an alien spaceship sent to find us.
Welcome back to Let's Get Haunted
With your hosts,
Nat Strawn
and Aly. Welcome back, Haunties, to episode 235 of Let's Get Haunted. We are your ghost hosts, and we're here to make sure you get incredibly haunted today. But first, Nat, can you please explain to anyone who might be new to the show what they can expect from us moving forward, and also how the show works, please?
You can expect to get wrecked, essentially. Not only is this podcast stuck in like 2016 humor, it's also gonna rocket ship you to a haunted place. But today we're gonna hear a story from Aly, and I don't know what the story is gonna be because every single week we switch off. Next week I'm gonna tell her a story. She's not gonna know what it is. Our personalities, our attention spans, our interests, our senses of humor are very different. And so if you don't like this episode, listen next week because it's going to be a totally different show. Not better, not worse, just different. But for some people, Aly's shows are better.
And for some people, my shows are worse. What can you do, guys? That's why we're two halves of a whole, two haunts in a pod, two peas in a pod, two ghosts in a casket. And behind that, I am observing a change in decor. I would love for you to explain this to the audience. I cannot move on until it's explained.
Yeah, guys, I got this LED sign. And this has been a long process for me because I also put this soundproofed wall behind me. It's a whole thing. I know a lot of you guys have just found us since we put video on. So you're like, oh my God, they're so professional. But what you don't know is that it's a do-it-yourself podcast.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, like Nat said, this is Let's Get Haunted. We are Nat and Aly. Every week we switch off telling you terrifying tales from around the world. This week is my turn. Next week is Nat's turn. When it's our turn, the other person doesn't know what it's going to be about. However, Nat did just hear that hook that we recorded.
Yeah. I thought it was 3L Atlas. I've just been saying in my mind 3L Atlas, and the shorthand in my mind is Thratlas. So this is really throwing it all up. That's an I after the 3?
That is an I, and we will talk about how it got its name. We're going to talk about its characteristics, what we can expect from 3I Atlas. But first, I have to ask you, Nat, are you ready to get on your cosmonaut and or astronaut suit and buckle the fuck up?
Let's go, bitch, as Shania Twain says.
Let's go, bitches. Part 1, Interstellar Visitors. Today, we will be discussing 3I Atlas, an interstellar object that was first observed in our solar system on July 1st, 2025. 3I Atlas is one of only 3 interstellar objects, hence its label 3I, third interstellar, to ever be observed passing through our cosmic backyard. And it's currently cruising at a stunning 61 kilometers per second, which is about 137,000 miles per hour for all of our fellow Americans listening. To put that into perspective, that's like traveling from Los Angeles to New York City in under 60 seconds.
Okay, actually, that's not that fast. I mean, for people, that's fast, but I thought stuff in space is it's going 3,000 light years per second, you know?
I mean, that's super fast. You would for sure die. You would for sure die trying to travel that fast.
So it's not really going that fast. So therefore, I feel like...
No, it's going really fast. It's going 137,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, but okay, look, correct me if I'm wrong, which I don't think you can because this is a hypothetical, but I feel like in 100 years, we're going to have some technology that gets you from LA to New York in under a minute.
How many G's would you have to pull to do that? I think you would just evaporate.
Well, they'll have anti-evaporation sauce. That will be your first thing you do. You take a shot, and then you get on there, and it's anti-evaporation. Or they just put you in a diaper, and you evacuate.
All right, well, maybe so. But before we get too bogged down in the nitty-gritty, let's start with the most sensational claim about this object to force our ADHD listeners to pay attention. Namely, that 3I Atlas is purported to be an extraterrestrial probe sent to our solar system with the sole task of observing us. In order to understand why some scientists have proposed this idea, we need to take a step back and look at the history of science's hunt for alien life in general, which has not always been so scientific. For example, in 1820, mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss proposed that the best way to contact beings from beyond our planet would be to plant thousands of trees in the shape of a right triangle on the Siberian tundra so that aliens passing through the cosmos would see it and know that there was intelligent life in the area. He theorized that this triangle would be large enough for aliens, who he thought were probably living on Mars or the Moon or both, to see it from a telescope on their planet, and he proposed that the right triangle should include 3 squares on each of its sides to depict the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, since math, he conjectured, would be the universal language. And I actually think this is kind of interesting because in modern times, we have the trope of crop circles being left by aliens, but this sounds like a crop circle being left for aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. I get stuck on, like, why do we think that the aliens know the same math that we have, right? Or like, why do we think that they're going to be impressed? They're going to be like, oh, a triangle with squares, that's really intelligent. I don't think so. I think they would be more impressed if we like fucking put the Mona Lisa on the Siberian tundra. Or what about this? What about a giant Siberian husky? And then they're going to see it from afar and they're going to be like, okay, not only is that amazing artwork, I've also never seen a dog. And so I don't know what that is. And now I'm curious. If I have finite resources, all right? Like, I'm assuming you're piloting your fucking spaceship to go, like, interstellar travel or whatever. It probably is going to really hold you up if you stop at a random planet you didn't think about stopping. Like, we're talking about going on a fucking road trip, essentially, right? You know, you're on a road trip and you see it's like, world's biggest ball of yarn, 60 miles out of the way, that way, right? And you're like, do we really gotta go see this world's biggest ball of yarn? It's 60 miles out of the way. I feel like they're going to see that fucking triangle and be like, well, there's a triangle. Like, okay, they figured out Pythagorean's theorem, whatever it's called. Do we give a fuck? No, let's keep going. Let's find something better. But if they saw, I don't know, something like more interesting or like, you know, maybe they would be like, oh, okay, actually, I'm kind of interested in these people. Like, they seem interesting to me.
Art might be more interesting to us or to other civilizations that have art, but I think the idea that he had was, first of all, he didn't think they were interstellar. He thought that they were sitting on the moon or that they were sitting on Mars and that they could just look through their telescope at the other planets, much like we can look through our telescopes at the other planets. Back in the day, we didn't have as good of telescopes, this is the 1800s, as we do now. And so he was thinking, if we plant all of these trees in a giant shape, thousands of trees on this otherwise barren tundra, then when they're looking around with their telescope in their backyard, they're going to see that and be like, that wasn't there yesterday. What is that? And if we put it in the shape of something that is intelligent or that is not subjective, because the idea is that math is not supposed to be subjective, 1 + 1 always equals 2. So if we put up Pythagoras' theorem in a picture form, they'll be like, oh, whoa, somebody else also figured that out. Whereas art could be subjective because to some people, art is a banana duct taped on a piece of canvas. To somebody else, it's the Mona Lisa. But if they have mountains that look like the Mona Lisa, then maybe it wouldn't be that impressive to them, or maybe they hold different values. And so if they saw a giant husky, it wouldn't even register to them that that is something man-made. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. I just don't respect math. I I don't like it. It is subjective to me. You could talk to all my math teachers from high school and they will tell you, yeah, math is subjective for Natalia. I've never really quite understood it in the same way that I understand other subjects.
I think, though, maybe this is the marriage of math and art because you're still drawing something. It's not like you're putting a math equation. He proposed drawing a giant triangle and then drawing 3 squares on each of the 3 lines of the triangle. So it is still kind of an art, but let's move forward 20 years to 1840 when a scientist working at the Vienna Observatory named Joseph von Littrow proposed digging elaborate trenches 20 miles wide of various mathematical shapes, filling the trenches with kerosene, and then lighting them on fire to send glowing messages to extraterrestrial beings. Do you like that idea better or worse than the trees?
No, I think that one's more fun. I like the other one with the trees and stuff. I like it. It's just not that fun to me.
If you were in your backyard on Mars looking through your telescope, you would not care for the trees.
I don't think I would care as much as if I saw a bunch of stuff on fire. But I guess I don't really understand the Martians. Maybe they're really boring. Maybe they're like, ooh, triangles and squares. My people, this will be fun. We can talk about what the perfect schedule would be for a Monday afternoon. Right? Like, I don't know what they're talking about because frankly, I don't care. But those people that are setting shit on fire, I feel like we could have some good combos. So I'd be like, you know what? Maybe I need to look into this.
Well, let's move forward even more to the 1900s, where more modern searches for alien life began with people like Nikola Tesla and Guglielmo Marconi, who we discussed in episode 67 of our show during our episode on the Black Knight satellite. Both Tesla and Marconi experimented with radios. Actually, they were both granted patents for the radio, but that's a conversation for a different time. It's very controversial. People that love Nikola Tesla hate Marconi. People that love Marconi hate Tesla. So table it for a minute and let's move forward in time. They thought they might have picked up on messages sent to Earth by Martians while using their radio equipment. So as they were listening to different radio signals passing through the atmosphere, they heard some things that made them pause. And they were like, wait a minute, this is coming from outer space and it sounds intelligent. But the radios they were using were very rudimentary, so it kind of stops there. Nothing else was really done about it. You can read different things that Tesla wrote about what he thought the aliens were saying. And like I said, we talked about that in our episode on the Black Knight satellite. But that's kind of where it ends because they didn't have super high-tech radios. In 1959, physicists Giuseppe Cocconi and Philip Morrison wrote a paper where they proposed that radio waves would be the best way to communicate across interstellar distances, and their paper was so revolutionary that it is considered the foundation for the modern SETI method, a scientific theory and an organization that says the best way to search for extraterrestrial intelligence is by monitoring sounds and light pulses in space with large telescope radios. By the 1970s, NASA and other institutions were cautiously supporting this type of research, building large radio telescopes and receivers to scan the sky for any whispers from aliens. But in the 1980s and 1990s, U.S. Congress cut funding for NASA's SETI program, calling it silly and quote-unquote Martian hunting. However, private donors and non-governmental funding have kept the search alive.
That's really funny that they called that silly. You guys really want us to audit all of the spending of the government right now and see what else is silly? No, I don't think you do, right?
Right. So just let us search for aliens. Come on, guys. What's another billion? It's a drop in the bucket.
I know. It's all fake anyways. Like, this money thing is fucking fake. And it doesn't make any sense. It's so weird, the whole money thing. I think about that all the time, how it's like, oh, if you actually just make X amount of money, then you don't have to worry about making money anymore because you put it in an account somewhere and then it like accrues interest every year. I just can't wrap my head around that because I'm like, what do you mean it accrues interest every year? How?
Maybe the aliens in their radio signals that they were sending to Tesla were talking about how to accrue interest. We don't know. But in 1977, an Ohio State University telescope detected the famous wow signal. Natalia, have you ever heard of the wow signal?
Is it like when Owen Wilson is like, wow?
Wow.
Yes, it could be. I'm going to send you a video. I am texting it to you right now. It is a video of the wow signal. So for those of you who are watching the video version of this week's episode on YouTube or Spotify, you can obviously see the wow signal up on your screen right now. For those of you who are listening to the audio only version, please head over to @Let'sGetHaunted on Instagram, where I will have this video in the photo dump for this episode. Nat, do you want to describe what you just watched?
That was weird because I kept waiting for like there to be a wow, but it just sounded like a bunch of feedback and like scratches. Is that what the wow is? There's no actual wow. It's not anyone saying wow.
That is what is known as the wow signal. It's a 72-second burst of radio energy that was 30 times stronger than usual space background noise. It appeared at a frequency of around 1,420 megahertz that scientists had speculated an alien civilization might use to signal. And it left astronomer Jerry Emin so astonished that he scribbled the word wow with an exclamation point next to the data printout in red pen.
Wow. Okay, I understand now. That's why it's called the wow. You know, I give nerds like a lot of trouble, but when I'm talking about nerds, the nerds that I don't like are people who are like, actually, and they're just taking either a bit that I was on about and like explaining to me why the bit was wrong, or fact checking things. Oh my God, I hate fact checking so much. But I respect those kind of nerds. Like someone who can just listen to static all day with like no visualizations, like no infographic, like nothing. They're just listening and like looking at like little needles moving around with like little fucking notches and stuff, and then being like, oh my God, there was 13 notches here, and that's an increase of 0.03. This is insane. They're like, my life's work. My God, like punching holes in walls and shit. Like, I like that kind of nerd. I think that's cool because someone's got to do it. It's not going to be me. I cannot pay attention to something that boring for that long. No way. So I'm very grateful for those type of nerds. So thanks to that guy. What was his name?
His name was Jerry Emin.
Jerry Emin. And this was what year?
1977 at Ohio State University.
That's good job.
He was so excited that he just couldn't help but print it out immediately and scribble wow on it in red ink. And that is how it got its name, the wow signal. For a moment, it looked like aliens were making first contact, since no known natural source could easily explain the wow signal. But frustratingly, the signal never repeated itself ever again, and to this day it remains unexplained, though there are many boring skeptic theories that we're not going to go into today because it's still unexplained. If one of the skeptic theories explained it away, then I would include it, but none of them do. Okay. So it's kind of creepy because if it really was an alien civilization trying to make contact with us, what happened to them? Like, were we just hearing their whole planet explode and that's it?
Oh. These are I feel like it's very easy for me to picture abstract concepts, like super abstract, like, oh, you could travel from LA to New York in less than a minute if you just take this special not explode sauce and, you know, do whatever. But like things that are like medium abstract, like picturing what the data from this radio signal might be, it's really hard for me to conceptualize that. I really wish there was like an infographic right now, Aly.
We're going to be looking at some graphics, so don't worry. We're going to look at some pictures, some videos, and we're going to talk about some theories that I think will interest you. Haunties, it's time to talk about longtime sponsor of the show, BLISSY. I love my BLISSY silk pillowcase. I actually own 3 of them. One in the color matcha, one in sunflower, and one in rose gold. And I cycle through them every time I do my laundry. BLISSY has done wonders for my skin and my hair. BLISSY has anti-aging properties, reducing fine lines and wrinkles over time, eliminates frizz and preserves hairstyles, and protects color-treated hair. They're dermatologist tested and recommended, and clinically proven to not clog pores, unlike cotton. They're naturally hydrating and come in over 99 fun colors, including a new Wicked line. Plus, tried and true staples like tie-dye, solid colors, and even a zodiac flower line, which I have the sunflower one. I wish I knew about these pillowcases sooner and hadn't wasted my time buying cheap satin dupe pillowcases that quite frankly sucked. But better late than never, and now that I've found BLISSY, I'm never going back. Because you're a listener, BLISSY is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/LGHpod. That's BLISSY.com/LGHpod. And use code LGHPOD to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair will thank you. And now back to your regularly scheduled haunting. So, why am I telling you all of this? Because I'm trying to illustrate that the search for extraterrestrial life by humans on Earth has gone through several phases throughout history. At first, scientists thought the best way to search for aliens would be to leave elaborate crop circles etched into the Earth, or to light giant geometric shapes on fire so that aliens in our solar system would see it and know that we exist. Then, scientists thought sending out and receiving radio waves was the best way to detect and attract alien visitors. But now we are entering a whole new era in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, because there's a new theory being proposed. One that says that the best way to make contact with extraterrestrials is to look for unnatural objects entering our solar system from outside of it. The theory is relatively simple. In the same way that we send objects into space that travel vast distances unmanned, it's highly likely that aliens, should they exist, are doing the exact same thing. And that brings us into today's topic, 3I Atlas, the interstellar object currently speeding through our solar system. Because of science's continued interest in outer space, there are a variety of powerful telescopes set up around the globe for the sole purpose of observing our skies. And on July 1st, one of these telescopes spotted 3I Atlas. In fact, the object is named after the telescope that found it. It was first detected by the NASA-funded Atlas Survey Telescope in Rio Hurtado, Chile, which on July 1st, 2025, flagged a faint moving dot in the sky and reported it to the Minor Planet Center. Astronomers soon realized this object was on what is known as hyperbolic trajectory, essentially a one-way trip past the sun, not in a closed orbit, meaning it must have originated in interstellar space. Once they calculated its path, it became clear that 3I Atlas was just passing through our solar system rather than belonging to it. The Discovery team combed through archival images and even found pre-discovery photos of the object dating back to mid-June 2025, hiding among our stars. After confirmation, the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, formally designated it 3I Atlas. 3 because it's the third interstellar object to enter our solar system, and I for interstellar, with Atlas crediting the telescope survey that found it. So let me show you some images of 3I Atlas that I'd like you to describe to our audience.
That's crazy. There's only been 3 things on record that have come into our solar system from interstellar.
At least that we know about. There are some scientists who say, well, the reason why we've only found 3 is because we just didn't know what we were looking for before. And now that we know what we're looking for, there's probably tons of interstellar objects entering our solar system all the time. We just can't see them because they're too small, and these were the 3 biggest. I am texting you some images. So the first thing I'm going to send you is a diagram of its trajectory that I would like you to describe to our audience.
Okay, I'm looking at the solar system from above. You know, it's like all of those circles. It kind of looks like when you cut a tree down to try to tell how old it is. It's like that. And it looks like 3L Atlas is going right past. It's kind of intersecting, not through the perfect center, but it's like intersecting with Jupiter and Mars's orbit. And it's going right past Earth's orbit. So it's not a perfect straight line. It looks like it's got a little bit of a curve to it. Yeah, it's kind of like going, I mean, it's going close to Earth too, but it's intersecting with Mars's orbit 2 times. So I feel like Mars has like 2 chances to get with this 3L Atlas thing.
Right, its only
Atlas.
chance to get married, possibly, since it's been on its own orbit for so long by itself. It's probably like, oh my god, this hot rock is gonna be zooming by me soon. I gotta, like, trap it in my orbit.
Next picture is a bunch of stars. They look like little colorful Christmas lights. And then in the middle is what I'm assuming is the Thratless. It looks like a glowing baseball. It's like an orb with like a little tail behind it. And then the next picture is, I mean, I'm assuming that this is also a picture of the object, time lapse. So like the stars in the background look like little lines instead of dots because they're moving. I'm assuming this telescope had to have the shutter open for a very long time. And so to get that light. And so, it's showing how the stars are moving. And the last thing is like a GIF, and it is following this object through space. Yeah, that is crazy because, okay, it looks like static on your TV, like when you turn to a channel that's not real. Actually, I don't think that exists anymore. But for you kids out there, it used to be if you didn't tune your channel just right, it would just be straight up like black and white static. That is what this picture looks like. I mean, there's got to be thousands, millions of stars, and it's just got a little target on this one thing that's moving across. Yeah, that's crazy. Space is so upsetting because it's like so small but so big at the same time. It's just upsetting. It makes me want to throw up, kind of. Like it's difficult to process that.
I know what you're saying. When you look at a picture of it, because it's so far away, because space is so big, the pictures look so tiny. And so it's frustrating because it's like, why I would love to just be able to zoom all the way into it, please, so that I can see the details of it. But instead, since space is so vast, everything just looks like ants crawling around on the ground.
Whatever this is this a comet? Is it an asteroid? I don't know.
We're going to talk about the differences between comet and asteroid and what 3I Atlas is, but as of right now, we don't know what it is. So we're not calling it a comet or asteroid. We're calling it an object.
I need like a diorama.
Yeah, and it is really far away. It is 290 million miles from Earth, though its distance is changing as it moves through our solar system. So it's currently, as of today, inside Jupiter's orbit, but it will make its closest approach to Earth on December 19th, 2025, at a distance of approximately 170 million miles. So right now it's 290 million miles away, and in December it'll be 170 million miles away. I've mentioned a couple of times now that 3I Atlas is only the 3rd interstellar item to be confirmed in our solar system, but what's even more interesting is that we only started observing these objects beginning in 2017, which is not that long ago. So the very first object arrived in 2017, and the second object arrived in 2019, 2 years later, and now in 2025, we have our third object. The previous 2 interstellar objects observed passing through our solar system are labeled 1I Oumuamua, named after the telescope in Hawaii that spotted it, and 2I Borisov, named after the amateur astrologer who first spotted it with a homemade telescope, which is pretty badass, and we're going to talk about that later. So let's start with 1 Oumuamua, because in order to understand why 3I Atlas is such a big deal right now, I feel like if you look anywhere online, everyone's talking about it. We need to look at 1I and 2I first. So I'm going to send you a clip from astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson discussing 1I Oumuamua back in 2017.
Yeah, I've heard of this guy.
Yeah, he's kind of a hater when it comes to UFOs. Yeah. I think in 2017, he wasn't as much of a hater as he has become now, but he has a good clip that I found on YouTube Shorts.
All right.
We detect some fast-moving thing in the solar system with hyperbolic speeds headed towards Earth, and then it rapidly begins to slow down. Oumuamua is the first visitor from interstellar space that we have ever confirmed moved through our solar system. So, because its orbit, its trajectory around the sun was not, quote, following Newton's laws, that meant something was affecting its trajectory. And some hypothesized maybe it's an intelligent craft. If there's not actual aliens on it, maybe there are active navigational tools on it that go into autopilot as they near a star. And it is trivial to learn whether it belongs here or comes from elsewhere.
He always has to get like the last little jab in there, you know? It's like that. Like your whole job is just to compute things and relate it to people who don't give a fuck. That's your passion, right? Now take what you're passionate about and make me passionate about it. That's, I feel like, is the plight of all humans, because we're in a capitalist society and we're not going to fund shit that we don't understand, right? Like if I love horses, I'm going to tell people about horses in a way that they can understand. This guy is talking about stuff that the majority of people don't understand, and he's trying to humanize it, make it so that we can understand it, right? And so I just don't understand why.
I actually think you're really going to like the next scientist who we bring up in a little bit here, who is actively studying 3I Atlas. His name is Avi Loeb, and he has been doing tons of interviews with different podcasts lately. I hope we can get him on our show one day, but he is basically saying kind of what you're saying, which is, I get it. This could just be a comet. It could be something normal, prosaic, a bunch of rocks in the sky. But you still have to gather all the data on it anyway. So why not maintain an open mind? Because if you don't have an open mind, which is the true spirit of science, then you're going to miss things that you don't even know you're missing because you're just not keeping the possibility open. So I think he is the antithesis of Neil deGrasse Tyson in that he is really good at getting the layperson interested in this stuff because he does keep an open mind. And he works at Harvard University.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and send you some pictures of Oumuamua so that you can describe them to our audience. One of them is an actual photo from super far away in the night sky. The other two are artist recreations, which I actually like because, as we were saying earlier, it sucks when you're looking at some of these pictures that just look like little ants on the ground and it's hard to relate to it. It's hard to understand what you're looking at and it's hard to care. So I like that Oumuamua had NASA develop these artist renderings. But if you can go ahead and describe these to our audience.
Okay, well, the first picture is the actual, like, telescope photo of it, and yeah, it's just, like, some lines and a dot, essentially. It kind of looks like Pong, that, like, 80s video game. If you took that game and just turned it on its side, horizontal. The other pictures literally look like a turd flying through space. I've got to say, this is the most turd-like object I've ever seen. It looks like a long, straight one, and it's a little lumpy, and it's literally shit brown. I kid you not, guys. Go look at these pictures and tell me whatever artist made this for sure was like having the time of their life laughing at how turd-like they made this. Look,
if it was an alien ship, I guess they don't shit the same shits we shit because they would know that that looks like a poop and they would alter the design. Right? I don't know.
Maybe a poop is like the most... Actually, what if a poop is like a universal truth somehow, like through all societies? It
like
travels
math, like the other two guys that were saying we have to write math on the ground in really big letters to attract the aliens. But what if we just took a really big shit? Like, wouldn't that be the true universal math?
Right. Like, what if all species of intelligent life, like, that's part of some universal truth? Like, instead of like, oh, they get to a point where they leave their atmosphere and they leave their environment, it's like, no, they actually evolve until they do poops like this.
Maybe the aliens are giants and that is one of their poops.
Oh, wow. We can't rule that out.
Whoa. In fact, we're ruling it in. So back to Oumuamua, this shit-shaped object that was floating through our solar system before it got flushed into the next galaxy. Oumuamua is a Hawaiian word meaning scout or messenger, and it was unlike anything astronomers had ever seen before. For starters, it was relatively small for an interstellar object, on the order of only a few hundred meters long, but its shape and behavior were puzzling. The object's brightness varied dramatically, implying an elongated or flattened shape often described as being cigar-like or pancake-like, rotating end over end. Even more bizarre, Oumuamua showed no obvious coma or dust tail despite passing relatively close to the sun. We'll talk about what that means in a second, but this is the point where we're going to look at some diagrams of comets and asteroids. All right, so I've sent you a couple of diagrams. So the main differences between an asteroid and comet are their composition and appearance. Asteroids are rocky, airless bodies, while comets are icy bodies that develop a coma, which is a fuzzy atmosphere, and tail when they near the sun. Asteroids are mostly found in the asteroid belt located between Mars and Jupiter, whereas comets originate in the colder outer solar system and have highly elliptical orbits, making them visible for shorter periods. So can you go ahead and describe these diagrams that I've sent you, and I will throw them up on the screen for our video listeners. Otherwise, you can check them out at Let's Get Haunted on Instagram.
Yeah, asteroid looks like a rock. Like it's, got holes and stuff on it. It looks kind of like if you go to like Hawaii or someplace where there's like volcanic activity, or there was volcanic activity, it looks like a very porous rock. It looks like the kind of rock where like if you're not wearing sandals, it'll just cut up your feet, Like it's not like a smooth, sexy rock that you would throw across a pond to make it skip.
Definitely
It's
not.
a rock that, will cut you up.
You'd throw it at your enemies. You wouldn't have like a fun time skipping around with your son, at the
Right.
lake. This would be like, I am about to murder and I need a rock that's going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah. It's a very aggressive rock. Now, the comet is like a fairy. It literally just looks like a beautiful angel hurtling through the sky. And it's kind of, since we're so close to Halloween, it's like a candy corn, sort of, right? Like
Interesting.
It's sort of like tapered at the front, and then it kind of expands out, like the skirt on it sort of flows out. Or it looks like one of those old-timey ghosts where it's like just a person wearing a sheet on their head. Yeah, it looks
I
like
feel
that
that.
hurtling through the sky. I feel like asteroids are probably super jealous of comets because the comet is beautiful. There's no doubt about that. And the comet has all this cool stuff on it, like the ion tail and the dust tail and the nucleus and the coma, whereby this asteroid diagram, it doesn't even have cool names for stuff. It's just like the dense nickel iron core, the outer layer of silicone minerals, silicate minerals, and the intermediate zone of cellular nickel iron and silicate minerals. It's like it doesn't even have cool names. So I could see why the asteroids would be extremely jealous of the comets.
Yes. If we were to personify them, I would say that that's probably accurate. And NASA.gov has a really nice video on what the difference is between asteroids, comets, and meteors that I might throw up on the screen. I might not, but I'm going to read the script because they're actually cool, it turns out, and they put their scripts online. So this is their script for their video. What's the difference between asteroids, comets, and meteors? Well, they're all planetary objects orbiting the sun. An asteroid is a small, rocky object, and when seen in a telescope, it appears as a point of light. Most asteroids are found in a ring between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter called the asteroid belt. Some asteroids are round, some are elongated, and some even have a satellite. A comet also orbits the sun, but unlike an asteroid, it's composed of ice and dust. So, when a comet gets close to the sun, its ice and dust content start to vaporize. When seen in a telescope, a comet appears fuzzy and/or has a tail due to this phenomenon. What's a meteor? Well, let's start with a meteoroid. A meteoroid is a small piece of asteroid or a comet, typically pebble-sized, but could be a little smaller or a little larger and often created from a collision. When a meteoroid gets close to the Earth and enters the Earth's atmosphere, it's called a meteor. And a meteor enters the Earth's atmosphere at a very high speed, so it burns up and produces a streak of light called a shooting star. So, if you have ever seen a shooting star, you likely saw a meteor. And if a meteor survives the burn and lands on the ground, it's called a meteorite. End quote. Isn't that actually like a really great explanation?
Yeah. Yeah,
Shout out
it
to
is.
NASA. We've given you guys a lot of grief over the years, but this is actually redeeming everything about that guy you murdered in the 1950s. Like,
Yeah.
I no longer care.
Yeah, it's fine that your emblem might
Yeah.
be a snake of Satan.
Who cares?
We don't care anymore.
They have this really great infographic. I love it.
Yeah.
So basically, the reason for explaining this is because a moa was cigar-shaped, tumbling end over end, and had no coma or dust tail, which it should have had if it was a comet. So it's really interesting because if it was a comet, then all of its ice would start gassing out as it gets closer to the sun and starts to evaporate and create that tail that you see on a typical comet, but it didn't. So because of this, it was initially classified as an asteroid. But as it sped away, they noticed that it had tiny but detectable non-gravitational acceleration. Basically, it was deviating from the exact path gravity alone would dictate. This could only happen if gases were gently venting from its surface, acting like rocket thrust, but no one saw the typical signs of such outgassing since it didn't have a tail. The mystery of what was propelling Oumuamua led to a few researchers speculating that it might be alien technology. But most boring scientists erred on the side of skepticism and thought it might just be some weird natural comet that didn't have a tail, even though the whole reason why a comet is because it has a tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that doesn't really seem fair because, like, you're constantly correcting people. Actually, that's a comet and it's not an asteroid, you stupid fuck. Here's why. Here's the infographic. The tail, the coma, the nucleus. See, these components are what makes a comet. And now they're like, well, maybe it's just a comet that's, doesn't adhere to the rules. You're jumping in circles trying to explain something that doesn't necessarily
have an explanation.
Like fit. Yeah, like doesn't fit in your thing, and so you're just trying to make stuff up,
Yeah, it sort of seems like they were just trying to not say it was an alien craft.
Right.
But one recent study suggests that Oumuamua was actually a fragment of a Pluto-like ice world from another solar system, composed largely of solid nitrogen ice that was eroding away and thus propelling it onward. Another research team proposed that hydrogen gas slowly released from water ice could have provided the push naturally without needing aliens. We may never know for sure because Oumuamua was only a fleeting visitor in our solar system, and by the time it was found, it was already on its way out of our solar system at about 26 kilometers per second, and telescopes could only track it for a few weeks. Still, Oumuamua made history as the first confirmed interstellar object, and it taught us that small, strange objects from other stars can cross our path.
Yeah, did I mishear this? Did you say it was a piece of an ice world?
Yeah, that's what they decided.
Ice world? Am I
Ice
hearing this
world.
right? A world made of ice.
Planet, yes. A planet and a world are the same, right? Like Earth is the world.
Wow, that never occurred to me. I thought a world had to have like people and civilizations and like it's a world. Like Disney World. That's the world of Disney, right? Astro World. The world of Astros. If you're telling me ice world, that's like, oh, the world of ice. Like I was picturing, I don't know. I was picturing like and that Mario Kart game from N64. Did you ever play that?
Yeah.
The one level where it's like all those penguins. It's like a bunch of ice and like snow and stuff. That I was picturing that, where it's like you're going through ice caves, like the ice world.
It could be that on the planet. So the planet would be made of ice, and then the little penguins and ice caves would be on the planet, right? Which would make it the world.
An ice world.
Yeah, it's the ice world. So Pluto is predominantly made of ice, and so that's why they said a Pluto-like ice world or planet, but from another solar system, because of their trajectory, we can tell it's not from our solar system, because if it were in our solar system, it would be on that path, the rings, right? It would be caught in the gravitational field. But these ones, as you described earlier when you were describing the trajectory of 3I Atlas, they like come in straight line, super aggressive, and then they continue on in a straight line outside of our solar system again.
Yeah.
So
yes, that's accurate.
Now let's talk about the second interstellar object, 2I Borisov. While Oumuamua was enigmatic and sparked theories of alien drones, 2I Borisov turned out to be kind of boring, so we're not really going to discuss it a bunch, but it was discovered in August 2019 by amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov. And that is the cool part of the story, because
cool.
I just love the idea of it could have been any of us. Like, I know it couldn't have, because we don't make our own telescopes and observe the skies and have an understanding of the planets and the stars and science and math. But this guy was just a regular dude. And he made his telescope and he looked at the sky and he was like, I think that is an interstellar object. And then he reported it to people, and other people verified, and they were like, whoa, Borisov was right. So I'm going to send you a picture of this guy.
Have we verified that this is a real person?
Yes, there are photos of him with his telescope, and I love him.
Okay, so he's not like a sleeper cell alien, like being like, oh, I'm just a normal person with a telescope in my backyard, and I have discovered this object. Humans, take heed of this object I've discovered.
He might be an alien. I suppose we have no way of knowing until we talk to him. So if you're out there, Borisov, we would love to talk to you. But he's kind of cute. Wow. He's just like a little dude. It's so cute.
Yeah, he's definitely like working gorpcore, if you know what I'm talking about. It's like a style of dressing where you look like you're camping, but you're just living life. But you got full camping gear, like camping boots, camping pants, camping tactical hoodie thing, and a sick mustache. Yeah, and he's posing next to his telescope, I guess. This is kind of crazy. He made that? Wow.
He has a ton of telescopes. Honestly, I would marry this man if he were my age.
He is giving real green flag. He has like one of those nice smiles that's like, I don't know. He just looks, he's not threatening, but he's handsome. He just looks nice. He looks like someone you would want like teaching your children. Like he looks like he's got like a teacher face. Yeah, which makes sense. So it also makes sense that would be the perfect skin to give a human to teach you about space. Like if I asked AI, like if I asked ChatGPT, like show me what a man who teaches me about space looks like, this is the exact person they would draw. Yeah, he's got these homemade telescopes are crazy. They look like it looks like R2D2 or something. Like they're real thick and kind of squatty. Yeah, that's crazy in there.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him, so if he's problematic, I apologize. But I can't imagine any man with that smile, mustache, kind eyes combo is problematic. He just seems like he really likes outer space, and I might be in love with him.
Where is he from? Is he like Russian? Is he like, what's that name?
He's from Crimea.
Okay. The Crimean Sea, the Crimean War. Okay. I haven't heard much about that place since the Crimean War.
So Crimea is a peninsula in Eastern Europe on the coast of the Black Sea, and I think it's technically part of Ukraine.
Is it like the Iliad or some other thing like that? Like Homer goes to where that guy's from? Something happened. Like someone got turned into a pig or something, and I can't remember. There's some crazy mythology that is about the Crimean War. That's what I was talking about. If there's been a modern Crimean War, that's not what I was referencing. I was referencing the ancient one.
So Crimea, I just looked it up. It was part of Ukraine. Technically, the international community still has it labeled as part of Ukraine, but in practice, it's been under Russian occupation since they illegally annexed it in 2014. So, and he's a cutie, and he's a telescope maker, amateur astronomer, and he discovered 2I Borisov in 2019. And he got a little plaque for it, which is that third photo I sent you of him looking at his plaque, looking very proud. As soon as it was observed, 2I Borisov displayed a conspicuous coma and a long tail, meaning it was releasing gas and dust. So that's how we know it was a normal comet, which is why I said it is kind of boring, but it's still a heartwarming story of a guy with a dream, and that's why we're including it in this story, because aren't we all just guys with dreams?
I mean, unless it became aware more. You know, if it was an alien spacecraft or whatever, and they're all of a sudden like, oh, they discovered us. Let's make ourselves look like we have a coma and a tail.
Well, that's actually an interesting theory, because what if they came by in 2017 and they were like, wow, our turd vehicle really caught the eyes of the humans and they almost caught on to us, but we sped away. And the reason why they caught on to us is because we weren't releasing a coma. So next time we're going to come in with a different shaped vehicle and we're going to pack ice all around us so that way it burns off and they'll think we're a comet. Who can ever say?
Yeah.
Who can ever know? In fact, in images it looked remarkably similar to comets from our own Oort cloud, earning it the nickname Interstellar Borisov. Astronomers were thrilled. With Borisov, unlike Oumuamua, we had a longer window to study it as it approached the sun and then receded, and spectroscopic observations showed that Comet Borisov's makeup was broadly similar to solar system comets, but with a few intriguing differences. Notably, Borisov had an unusually high concentration of carbon monoxide in its coma. Carbon monoxide is very volatile, meaning it boils off at low temperatures, so this suggested that Borisov might have formed in an extremely cold environment, perhaps in the outskirts of a red dwarf star's planetary system, or from the icy regions of a young system where CO ice was abundant. As it swung through our solar system in late 2019, telescopes like the famous Hubble collected a treasure trove of data. In many ways, Borisov behaved exactly like a garden variety comet, confirming that at least some interstellar visitors closely resemble the icy wanderers we're used to. Or, in the words of TLC, don't go chasing Borisov, please stick to the icy wanderers that you're used to, end quote.
Okay, wait. So that Borisov is 1 kilometer long?
Yeah.
That is 1/5 of the perfect distance for Aly to showcase her mid-distance running. That's crazy. That's a crazy coincidence because, as we all know here on this podcast, 5 kilometers would be the ideal distance for Aly as a competitive runner to showcase her talent.
Yep, you guys, if you're new to the show, I can't explain it to you. You're going to have to go listen to this entire season. And as you're listening to the episodes and you're like, God, I hate these women. They're so annoying. I fucking hate this show. But I need to find out why Aly runs a 5K. Why is this constantly referenced? Just go back and just listen to everything. And if you're still confused, listen again.
Yeah, I changed my mind too in the beginning. I guess it's fine that there's a triangle with squares and stuff on. I don't know why that exercise just like it made me defensive right off the bat. I don't know why. Sometimes that happens, guys. It wasn't warmed up. Actually, it's fine.
We used to have long intros on this show, but then people yelled at us too much, so we cut them. And so now we come into these stories cold, like a comet broken off from a red dwarf planet, and sometimes our attitudes take a while to iron out. Sorry, guys. But after learning about this normie Borisov comet, you might be asking yourself, Aly, why the fuck do we care about 3I Atlas? Is this just going to be another object that blue balls us by coming out as a comet? And to answer that, we have to enter part 2 of this episode, which is what makes 3I Atlas so special. In July 2025, astronomers discovered something astonishing racing into our solar system, an object later designated as 3I Atlas, only the third interstellar visitor ever observed. Unlike ordinary comets bound to the sun, 3I Atlas follows a one-way hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it came from deep space and is just passing through. Tracing its path backward shows it hails from outside our solar system entirely. It's moving fast, about 130,000 miles per hour relative to the sun. This makes it the fastest interstellar object ever recorded, outpacing the famous Oumuamua and Borisov that preceded it. It will slingshot around the sun at the end of October 2025, very close to Halloween. It's supposed to be behind our sun on October 30th, before hurtling back into the stars. Fortunately, it never comes closer than about 170 million miles to Earth, so it poses no danger to us. Still, the mere presence of this extraterrestrial wanderer, older than our own solar system, has every astronomer's eyes turned toward the skies in wonder, because 3I Atlas is not your average comet. This is not your mother's comet. This is not your mother's skinny jeans. This is a whole new thing. So I'm going to send you...
What do you have against my mom? That was weird.
You've never heard that before? I constantly get ads on Spotify that are like, this is not your mother's jeans. Buy, I think it's a brand name. Buy not your mother's jeans at your local Nordstrom. And I constantly get ads for it. And so it's just fresh on my mind.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I already showed you this photo, I'm pretty sure, but I want you to click on this link I just texted you and read this Reddit post that includes a photo of 3I Atlas.
Okay. New photo shows growing tail of interstellar comet 3I Atlas. Top comment says, maybe it's not a tail. It is warp shield that bends with space-time distortion. And since we were begun to observe it, the craft has just exited the warp speed. Please don't downvote me. I really like sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, I just thought that was cute because I like when people have wonder and then are bashful about it. Because Reddit can be really mean on some of these subreddits where people are like, but what if it is an alien spaceship? And even in the alien subreddits, it's gotten real weird. It's like people just downvote everything. But let's talk about why this is not your average comet. At first glance, 3I Atlas appeared to be a comet, a chunk of ice and dust leaving a fuzzy coma, gas cloud, and tail as it warms. Indeed, subsequent observations confirmed a comet-like coma and a growing tail of gas and dust. However, it very quickly became clear that this was no ordinary comet. For one thing, it started glowing and sprouting a coma much further from the sun than usual. Most comets remain dim beyond Jupiter's orbit, but 3I Atlas was already shedding material and shining when it was outside of Jupiter's orbit, which had never been observed before. In other words, it began outgassing at an abnormally great distance from the sun. This early activity led some to wonder, what could make a small icy object light up so soon? The comet was, quote-unquote, emitting its own light even while still in the cold outer solar system, a bizarre behavior that immediately sparked speculation about exotic explanations. So the whole point of a comet, like we've already gone into, is that as it nears the sun, its icy exterior starts to burn off, and then we get this nice glowing tail trailing behind it. Very beautiful, very pretty. But while this object was way out in the boonies, in the cold part of our solar system, far from the sun, we can see that it still had that tail, which we've never seen before because it's not hot there. So the ice shouldn't be burning off yet, which leads some scientists to wonder, what if this tail is not ice? What if it's a propellant, a man-made or extraterrestrial-made gas, petrol, propellant, rocket fuel that is boosting this object through our solar system?
That's crazy. What if it was just that Crimean dude and he like had created this spaceship or whatever, and then later we're going to see him standing with a plaque and it'll be like, good job, you're the first person to make an object in space that was mistaken for an object in space.
He was like, you know what, guys? I've already discovered an interstellar object. I've already made like 50 homemade telescopes beyond your wildest imaginations while living in an annexed country under war all the time. So like, I am not phased. I am bored, in fact, and I am going to blast off into outer space on my homemade rocket ship. It's possible, and I don't think we can rule it out until that guy talks to me and goes on a date with me. But some scientists say that the reason why this emitting of gas was happening in the colder regions of our solar system is due to chemistry, not due to an extraterrestrial civilization creating it. So data from powerful telescopes, including NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, revealed that 3I Atlas's coma is unusually rich in carbon dioxide gas with comparatively little water vapor. The ratio of CO2 ice to water is roughly 8-1, one of the highest ever observed in a comet. Carbon dioxide can sublimate or turn from solid to gas under much weaker sunlight than water ice can. So maybe it's actually a natural explanation. And a CO2-rich comet could come alive and start having its tail further out from the sun.
I mean, it makes sense. I was stuck on the thought of you going on a date with that guy. Like, what would you guys talk about? Just telescopes and stuff? You would be like, tell me about your process, and then just sitting there like with your chin on your hand and like stars in your eyes.
Be
You'd
like,
be like,
so
can you see the stars in my eyes?
the carbon in my ovaries came from the Big Bang. Sorry to this man if you ever hear this. I just think it's cool you made your own telescope. But
Yeah.
moving on, because we
I
can't
can
keep
make a telescope,
harassing this
Aly.
man.
Actually, check this out right here.
Oh shit! Want to go on a date? Oh fuck! Let me tell you about the carbon in my ovaries that came from the stars. Are you weirded out yet? Does this work? You guys, if you're a man listening to this episode, please leave a comment and tell me if that pickup line would work on you if you were an amateur astronomer, please. Okay, Three-Eye Atlas's composition is virtually unheard of. That's a direct quote. An astronomer named Jacqueline McCleary, which shout out to her, because I feel like we've only been talking about dudes this entire episode, so shout out Jacqueline. She explains that Three-Eye Atlas's makeup offers a tantalizing glimpse of alien chemistry, hinting at conditions in its parent star system that differ greatly from ours. Another puzzle, though, that makes it different from regular comets is its size. Early Hubble Space Telescope measurements of the nucleus or solid core of the comet suggest it could be anywhere from a few hundred meters to a few kilometers across. But later analyses hinted that actually it's far more likely to be on the larger end of that scale, about 10 to 20 kilometers wide, which would make Three-Eye Atlas the largest interstellar object ever observed in our solar system.
They think that Thratlas is 30 kilometers long?
It really depends. It's like, this is also the frustrating part about stuff that we don't know about. Because you'll have one guy that's like, it's 3.5 miles long, and that's still really big. The other ones were a few hundred meters.
That's almost the perfect distance for Aly to run that. That's crazy. It just, that is crazy. I feel
and
like...
Then, maybe I should run on it. I don't know. Aliens beam me up. I've been asking for it for so long, and you guys aren't doing shit to me, and it's making me not believe in you. Just kidding. That's not true. Please, that's not true. But yeah, some people think it's 6 to 12 miles long, but Avi Loeb, who we're going to hear from in just a second, because we're going to listen to an interview he gave, he thinks it's around 3.5 miles long. So I think he's probably splitting the difference, right? Like, okay, here's the low end of what people think, here's the high end, let's meet in the middle and call it 3.5, call it good, let's go home. But whatever the case, this is the largest interstellar object ever observed. This huge size, if confirmed, and the comet's slow developing tail imply a massive, perhaps unusually rugged object shedding material in its own unique way. As it nears the sun, Three-Eye Atlas has even changed color in astronomers' images. Initially, it appeared reddish, but by September, it developed an eerie green glow as it released cyanide gas and other molecules. It's also taking a very strange path through the solar system. Perhaps the most eyebrow-raising aspect of Three-Eye Atlas is its trajectory. Interstellar objects can approach from literally any direction. Yet, Three-Eye Atlas is flying almost exactly along the ecliptic plane, the same flat disk in which Earth and other planets orbit. It's not only within the plane, but it's moving on a retrograde path, going the opposite direction of the planet's travel while mirroring their orbital plane within about 5 degrees. This is an exceedingly unlikely coincidence. One analysis noted the odds of an interstellar comet randomly aligning with our planetary plane are less than 0.2%. To some, it's as if Three-Eye Atlas fine-tuned its course to match the layout of our solar system, perhaps to map or observe it.
Wow, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I've always said, I mean, not always, I've recently started saying that I think if there was going to be interstellar travel, we would send out AI scouts first, because humans, I think, would be just way too expensive, way too volatile to send somewhere. What if a human has a heart attack on the way out to their mission, then it's like, okay, the mission's lost, right? But like if we send an AI scout or robot there, the things can last forever. They don't have health problems, and they run on, solar power, or whatever. And yeah, so it just makes a lot of sense. And so then I start thinking, that's probably what the aliens are going to do. Like the first alien life we're going to meet is most likely going to be some sort of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people think the gray aliens are, which we've talked about before in past episodes. A lot of people think that is the aliens' version of AI. It's this biologic AI melding of this being that doesn't poop. For those of you who missed our episode on that, I think it was like last season. There's this theory that that's why gray aliens don't have genitalia, is because they're actually not designed to live forever. They're just some sort of combination of machine and biologic that doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to poop, doesn't need to pee. It excretes perhaps its waste through its skin, according to some theories, but it's here and it's observing and it's not really alive. Like it's alive, but in a machine-like way. Yeah, and so you're right. A lot of people who do believe that aliens have visited us or are going to visit us think they're going to send a drone first, because why would you just come in hot, not doing reconnaissance, not trying to interact from a distance first? You would probably not want to take that risk. You wouldn't want to put people in danger. Moreover, the incoming trajectory of 3I Atlas happens to take it across the orbital distances of several planets. It will swing through the inner system just inside Mars's orbit, and its path even crosses the vicinity of Venus, Earth, and Jupiter's orbits, though the planets themselves will be elsewhere at the time. All of these curiosities, a nearly straight line unbound orbit perfectly hugging the sun's equatorial plane and intersecting planetary zones, adds to the mystery. Is it just a freak occurrence, or could there be an intelligent reason that this object's path looks like it's being directed? Scientists have also noted other quirky behavior. Early Hubble imagery in July 2025 showed an odd fan of light extending sunward from 3I Atlas rather than a normal tail streaming away from the sun. So as the comet flies, the tail follows it, but 3IA at times it's almost looked like the tail is in front of it.
So what does that mean?
Which means it's not like anything we've ever observed before, at the very least. As the comet continued inbound, the amount of dust and gas it shed didn't follow the exact patterns seen in familiar comets. Observations indicate an initial rapid brightening when far out that later leveled off. To astronomers, 3I Atlas is full of surprises, and to believers, it actually seems to be more in line with an intelligently designed object rather than a naturally occurring one. Because perhaps these gases that we're noting, sometimes in front, sometimes behind, sometimes around it, sometimes to the side, maybe that's because it's pushing different directions using some type of jet so that it can adjust its trajectory so that it can be on this perfect path that has a less than 0.2% chance of naturally occurring.
Now, is this thing going to hit Earth? Probably not. Right?
No. It's not. It's too far away. 170 million miles away is the closest it'll get. However, this is where we get to part 3, the alien probe hypothesis. All these strange qualities have inevitably fueled speculation. Could 3I Atlas be something more than a natural comet? While most experts see no need for extraordinary theories, a few scientists have dared to ask the big what if. The most vocal of these scientists is Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, known for his openness to unconventional possibilities, and he has been at the forefront of this discussion of the possibility that this object, 3I Atlas, is an extraterrestrial craft or a drone. And one of the things he says, which you led me into just now, is, okay, let's say it is an alien craft. The skeptic scientists are saying, well, who cares if it's an alien craft? The closest it's going to get is 170 million miles away. But he says that as it's going behind the sun and we can't see it anymore, it actually could have the perfect opportunity to let out hundreds of probes that then use the gravitational pull of the sun to jettison to Earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then what would we do? Would that be good or bad?
I mean, we'd probably be fucked unless they're cool. I guess if they're cool, then who cares? But I mean, I still care. But if they're cool and they're not going to annihilate us, then great, come here. But we should probably prepare, I think is his point, for the possibility. Because if they do come here, we need to have a plan, and our world paradigm is going to shift real quick. So now I'm going to send you an interview with Avi Loeb that I would like you to watch. We'll watch it together.
Is a confirmed real person as well? This is
It
not
is.
a sleeper cell?
You're going to see him. Hey, Haunties. At the time Nat and I recorded this episode, I had her watch an interview of Dr. Loeb that he had given to somebody else. But literally right after we finished recording, he actually emailed me back and we set up an appointment where I could interview him. So instead of showing the original clip that I had shown Nat from somebody else's show, I'm just going to go ahead and insert the entire interview with Dr. Loeb here. Make sure you check out the show notes if you want specific timestamps in case you want to skip past this part. But I think it was super interesting. And I am so grateful that Dr. Loeb saw my email, responded to my email, and that we were able to do this amazing interview. This is seriously like the pinnacle of my time as a podcaster, was getting to talk to Dr. Loeb. So without further ado, here you go. Well, Haunties, today we are joined by Dr. Avi Loeb, a leading astrophysicist and the head of the Galileo Project at Harvard University. His work focuses on exploring some of the most profound questions about our universe, including the search for signs of extraterrestrial technology. Dr. Loeb is here to discuss 3I Atlas, a newly discovered interstellar object and only the third of its kind ever observed passing through our solar system. We're so excited to learn about what makes this discovery so remarkable. We're honored to be joined by Dr. Loeb. Welcome to Let's Get Haunted. I can't believe you're here. I've been looking forward to this ever since we scheduled it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. And you can just think of me as a curious farm boy. That's where I was born, on a farm, and I'm still curious. And that's what makes me different. I guess many people, when they get to my age, they stop being curious. They pretend to be the adults in the room. That's not me. The one thing that makes me different from other astrophysicists is that I really enjoy thinking about the big picture and the most important questions. And I don't see myself different from the public. I care about what the public cares about. And the public cares about the most romantic question in science. What is it? Are we alone? Do we have a partner out there? That's the most important question in science. And that's what the public cares about. And a lot of people are excited. And just to give you an example, we will talk about 3I Atlas. And just a couple of weeks ago, I get an email. I get a lot of emails from fans. And one of them said, I'm a retired U.S. Air Force pilot. And my daughter, because of you, he said, so the title of the email was, because of you, my daughter now wants to become a scientist, and she keeps talking about aliens. Wow. And, that was the best email message I got for a long while, because if I can do anything, I would bring kids to science, and because it's fun, it's fun as long as you don't have those scientists who make it boring. There are these, the bulk of the scientific community approaches it very differently. They say, we will communicate with the public through press conferences. And in the press conference, they basically lecture the public and tell the public what the public might want to know, as if it's, the ultimate truth. And it feels like attending a class, and the public doesn't like that. There is a sense of intellectual superiority that the scientists display. And frankly, what science is about is, it's a learning experience. We don't know what nature is. Nature is more imaginative than we are. And, we are doing it by iterations. We are collecting data and figuring it out. And to pretend that, the truth and is really inappropriate. And the other thing that happens is that many times the scientific topics are divorced from the public. We don't ask the public what they care about. And I actually do think that the question, are we alone? Is there life elsewhere? Is the most exciting question. And the public agrees with that. But somehow it's being sidelined in the mainstream. And you have astrobiology as part of astrophysics, but it's mostly focused on looking for microbes. And just think about it. Suppose there are many houses on the street that look like your own house, and you say, oh, they probably have microbes and we should search for them because they're very common. Good luck. Try to look through the window of your home with a telescope and figure out whether the houses on the street have microbes. It's very difficult. And the astronomy community is willing to put billions, more than $10 billion into a telescope in space that would search for the fingerprints of microbes, the chemical fingerprints in the atmospheres of exoplanets. And I say, well, even if there is one resident in my neighborhood and lots of microbes, I might have an easier time detecting that resident because that resident may show up at my front door. That resident may throw a tennis ball that I will find in my backyard, or that resident will have some construction project in their backyard. So I argue that we should hedge our bets, and that we should put billions of dollars also to the search for intelligence out there. And, that comes to me from my philosophical background. I see the bigger picture, but it's not popular. It's really not popular, and I'm being attacked for exploring that.
I'm glad you bring that up, because I do think that the reason why you are so frequently requested to come on podcast shows is because you're very engaging. And as you said, you kind of take a different approach that a lot of other people don't take. And you're questioning things, you're exploring the philosophical side of science. And I had recently watched an interview of you. I believe it was on Ancient Societies or something like that. It was, I forget the name of the podcast, Ancient something.
Well, I had about 5,000 interviews over the past
I know.
few years.
You're everywhere, which I want to ask you about eventually, but about how you find the time for this. But I thought it was very interesting on that interview. You were talking about how it sort of changed, that science started as asking these big questions and not being afraid of being wrong. And that's sort of what science is intended to be. And instead, it sort of turned into people becoming more and more conservative with the big questions they're asking because they're afraid of the criticism.
Exactly.
And I was wondering if you could talk about that shift and why it might be harmful or hindering scientific progress.
Yeah, for a simple reason. That science is not about us. And the scientists get attached to their ego. They want to show off. They want to show that they are smart. They want to demonstrate to their peers that they can do better than their peers do. They're driven by jealousy. And it's not supposed to be that way. We are all supposed to figure out nature. Okay, but I can give you an example. There is a whole community in theoretical physics which over the past 50 years was focused on so-called string theory, which is imagining that there are extra spatial dimensions. So we don't live only in 3 dimensions, as we know, but there are other dimensions, and they use that to try and unify quantum mechanics and gravity, 2 pillars of modern physics. But they are talking about an idea that was not demonstrated, that is completely speculative. Nevertheless, this is considered to be what the adults in the room are doing. And it's a whole community of, thousands of scientists over the past 50 years. And you ask yourself, why is that not considered a wild speculation? Instead, what I'm doing is looking at anomalies of objects that arrive at the solar system and look really strange. They look anomalous. And I say, well, maybe they're technological. This is considered heresy. By whom? By all these comet experts that insist that everything in the sky must be rocks. And I just find that strange because, I was never on social media. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm just trying to say what sounds to me like common sense. And it sounds as if that is heresy to consider. Just to give you an example, the first interstellar object, an object that came from outside the solar system, it was given the name Oumuamua, which means in the Hawaiian language, a scout, because it was discovered in Hawaii. And that object showed some push away from the sun. There was some force acting on it, and it wasn't clear what it is because it didn't show any evaporation of gas or dust. There was no traces of a cometary rocket effect acting on it that pushes it. And I said, well, it's not a comet because we don't see a cometary tail of gas and dust around it. Instead, the experts claim, no, that it is a comet. You just can't see. The tail is invisible. And they talk about a hydrogen iceberg, a nitrogen iceberg. And I feel like the kid in Hans Christian Andersen's tale that said the emperor has no clothes. And the adults in the room are telling the kid, no, the emperor has clothes. You just can't see them. And, you might think that's a joke, but it's very much the reality of the situation where people are shoving anomalies under the carpet of traditional thinking and, giving labels like calling a comet, calling an object that has no cometary tail a dark comet, as if the cometary tail is not visible. It's just like, you are used to seeing zebras and suddenly you see an elephant, and then you say, okay, well, the elephant is a zebra without stripes. And that is inappropriate because the elephant is a completely different animal. And so when you see an object that has no cometary evaporation and it shows some force acting on it, it could be a spacecraft. Why not? And, when I speak, I'm basically, what you see is what you get. I'm not trying to pretend anything. And if I don't know something, I will admit it. And I'm doing it from the realization that science is a learning experience. And why should we pretend, And the public actually cares about the approach, and the public sympathizes with science as a work in progress. They are just humans, and they are trying to figure out, just like a detective. You have some clues, you have a mystery to figure out, and all you're doing is using all the information you have to figure out what are the options that are not ruled out yet. And if you rule out options just because you want to sound as if you are the adult in the room, then you will never crack the mystery because you are full of prejudice.
Our goal on our show is to make science entertaining and fun, to look at the speculative side, to be a little bit lighthearted. And I'm hoping that through this interview, we can break down some of these really dense topics, because I think something that you're butting up against with some of these things that you're saying about how the public reacts to science and these types of interviews is a lot of people feel intimidated. They feel like, I don't want to look stupid. So I'm not even going to look into this topic. And so I was hoping we can take a little bit of a step back from Three Eye Atlas and talk about interstellar objects in general. What makes us so confident that an object is traveling through our solar system from somewhere else? When something is seen in our solar system through a high-powered telescope, can you kind of break that down for our audience? We have a younger audience. It's mostly millennial and Gen Z. And I think that maybe by speaking really clearly, which you do so well, it'll make people more interested and feel less intimidated.
Yeah, it's very simple. Basically, if you throw a tennis ball up the air, it will come back to you until you throw it fast enough. And then it will be able to escape from the gravitational pull of the Earth. Okay? And so if an object flies through the solar system and it moves fast enough, you can tell that it cannot be bound by gravity to the sun. And so all we're doing is measuring the speed of those objects and realizing that some of them, most of the rocks that we see are actually part of the solar system. They're bound. The planets are moving around the sun for a long time, 4.6 billion years. That the Earth moves around the sun stayed the truth, irrespective of what the Vatican said. The Vatican at some point argued, no, the Earth is at the center, everything revolves around it. The Earth didn't care about that. Nature doesn't care if we are ignorant and don't understand it. The Earth continued to move around the sun, irrespective. And so there are objects just like the Earth, other planets, or some rocks that are left over from the building blocks of the construction project of the solar system, that started 4.6 billion years ago. So these objects are bound to the sun. And by the way, the size of the solar system, the region inside of which we find objects bound to the sun, is 100,000 times the Earth-Sun separation. So the solar system is huge. It's a quadrillion times bigger in volume than the region where the Earth orbits the sun. So you need to go a distance of 100,000 times the Earth-Sun separation before you find the edge of the solar system. That's halfway to the nearest star. And so the nearest star system is Alpha Centauri, and maybe they have their own distribution of rocks that go all the way out to that distance. Anyway, so coming back to your question, if we just see an object moving too fast to be bound to the sun by gravity, we know it's interstellar, it came from outside, and it will leave the solar system along its path, so it's coming through the solar system and continues to move through. Most of the solar system is empty, so it doesn't collide with anything.
Mm-hmm. And then the fact that there's only been 3 interstellar objects that we have at least confirmed as being present within our solar system seems really exciting, especially because the first, Oumuamua, was only spotted in 2017, I believe. And so it is kind of an exciting time to be alive. And I'm wondering if you could speak to, is that what we expect to see? Do we expect to see?
It's not by coincidence. It's not by coincidence, because in 2005, the U.S. Congress tasked NASA to find 90% of all the objects bigger than a football field that may collide with Earth, that come close to Earth. So that was a task, and NASA constructed this survey telescope in Hawaii that discovered Oumuamua, the first object that I mentioned. And it wasn't, we obviously have lots of these objects that came over the years, but we didn't have the telescope to find them, and we didn't have the computers to analyze the data that would allow us to find such objects, because they are very rare, and even an object as big as a football field comes once per few years within the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And smaller objects are much more frequent visitors, but we can't see them because they don't reflect enough sunlight. So we can only see the bright ones that are big enough to reflect enough sunlight, those that are bigger than a football field. And now we have actually the Rubin Observatory. It's a new observatory in Chile that was just inaugurated at the end of June 2025. And it will have a camera with 3.2 gigapixels. Oh, wow. And that is 1,000 times more pixels than your cell phone camera. It's an amazing camera that has a diameter roughly half the size of a person, and so it's starting to operate now, and it should find interstellar objects every few months, wow. Bigger than a football field, and it can see farther because it's a bigger telescope than the one in Hawaii, and we expect a new era now where every few months there will be a new one. And as far as I'm concerned, we should check if among the rocks that come and visit us, there is any technological object that may have been manufactured by an alien civilization, because we launched Voyager 1, Voyager 2, Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11, New Horizons, and we just did it over the past 50 years. And maybe other civilizations were born billions of years before us, because most stars form billions of years before the sun. So we are late to the party, and we could find a visitor in our backyard that came from far away. There was plenty of time, for them to travel. Voyager in 1 billion years would be on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. So within 1 billion years, there is, even with our current technologies, you can traverse the entire galaxy. So there is no problem of them coming to our backyard. And we should have no prejudice. Many people say, what is the chance that we will find anything? And I say, well, if it's a functional device, you don't know how to calculate. You don't know where the nearest aliens are or where. Even if they are dead, we could still get a package delivered to our mailbox.
Yeah. Well, can we talk a little bit about what makes 3I Atlas so exciting amongst these 3 interstellar objects that we have seen? And I know you already mentioned a few of the characteristics of Oumuamua that were unique. Can we talk a little bit about what makes 3I Atlas so unique? It's trending all over the internet. I know you don't have social media, but I think people are getting really excited about it because we're reading reports about unique characteristics, things we've never seen before, which inspires a lot of wonder in people. And I'm wondering if you can break down some of those differences.
Yeah, by the way, Oumuamua had another unusual feature, and that was that it was most likely flat, like a disc or a pancake, based on the reflection of sunlight from it. So its brightness changed by a factor of 10 as it was tumbling every 8 hours. But putting that aside, 3I Atlas is very unusual in different ways. So first of all, the brightness that we see from it, if it's just reflection of sunlight by a solid surface, this object needs to be 46 kilometers in diameter. That's twice as large as Manhattan Island. It's huge. It's 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua or the second interstellar object, Borisov. And you just don't expect a giant rock to arrive before you see 1 million smaller objects like Oumuamua or Borisov. So it's surprising if it's that big. And of course, instead of it being so big, maybe the object itself is small, less than 1 kilometer. And then what we are seeing is the reflection of sunlight from a cloud of dust particles around it. The problem with that explanation is that those dust particles will get pushed behind the object away from the sun by the solar radiation pressure. It would push them. And that's why comets have tails that are stretched away from the sun, because the radiation from the sun is pushing the dust, and then you end up with a tail away from the sun. We don't see such a tail. We didn't see it in July and August, and the Hubble Space Telescope took an image and there was no tail. Instead, what we saw is some glow ahead of the object towards the sun, the opposite direction. And in fact, just today, I wrote an essay on medium.com where I explained that this glow should be sort of cigar-shaped in the direction of the sun, and it should be 10 times longer than it is wide, based on the data from the Hubble Space Telescope. That's amazing that you have this very elongated glow ahead of the object towards the sun, rather than the other way around, behind the object, away from the sun, the way we see in comets. And the question is, what's the reason for that? And so first thing I mentioned was the size. Second thing is this glow ahead of the object. And the third, it has to do with the trajectory of the object, which is aligned to within 5 degrees with the plane of the planets around the sun. And the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 500. So the question is, the previous interstellar objects came at some random angle relative to the plane of the planets around the sun. All the planets are sitting in the same plane to within a few degrees, and this one comes within 5 degrees of that plane. And so why is it? If you had some intelligence that designed the trajectory, obviously it would choose that plane, because then this probe can come close to the planets. And several of them, in fact, it will come close to Mars on October 3rd. It will come within 29 million kilometers. There is a camera near Mars, orbiting Mars, on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And that camera, that is called HiRISE, can take a high-resolution image of 3I Atlas with a pixel resolution of about 30 kilometers. So we could learn much more about the nucleus of this object.
That's really close.
Yeah,
30 kilometers?
That will be the pixel size. So it will come within 29 million kilometers from the camera, but the camera is so effective that it can resolve a pixel of 30 kilometers. So that would be really nice. We could then tell how big is the core of the object. And then it will come close to Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. And I wrote a paper saying, well, we have a spacecraft near Jupiter that can be used to probe it. And a day later, I got a phone call from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, and she wanted an update about 3I Atlas, and I mentioned the possibility of using this spacecraft near Jupiter that is called Juno. And she was very kind and volunteered to write a letter to the head of NASA, encouraging them to use Juno to probe 3I Atlas. And I very much hope that NASA will listen to her, because we want to know as much as possible. Any encounter with an interstellar object is like a blind date. You never know. If you see on the other side of the table on a blind date, you see a rock, you might get disappointed. But even, if you see some product of intelligence on the other side, the question is whether it's friendly or whether you have a blind date with a serial killer. That is not obvious, and we have to worry about it if it's technological. So, it will obviously be a wake-up call for humanity. Now, the other thing that I need to mention in terms of anomalies is that this there is a cloud of gas around it, and it's mostly CO2, it's mostly carbon dioxide, 87% of it based on Webb telescope data. And about 9% are carbon monoxides, and the rest, about 4%, is water. So it's not made mostly of water based on the composition of the plume of gas around it. And then the Very Large Telescope in Chile discovered cyanide coming out of it, and discovered also nickel without iron. We never see nickel without iron in comets. They always come together, roughly at similar quantities. And the only place where we find nickel without iron is in nickel alloys that we produce industrially. And so that raises the question of whether, indeed the surface of this object was manufactured technologically, because we see nickel without iron. And finally, there is some weird polarization of the light that we see from the object, and that may be related to this very elongated cigar-shaped glow that we see in front of it. So there are all these anomalies, and if you look at scientific papers, they just follow the idea that there is nothing new under the sun. Okay, it's a comet, and it's a comet which is not very different from what we are. They just brush it under the carpet, all these anomalies. And I think we should be curious about it. And, if it's technological, that would be, that would have a very big impact on the future of humanity. If we realize that it maneuvers, for example, or emits some artificial lights or broadcasts some signal, I think the stock market will crash.
Well, I thought that your idea about using the Juno spacecraft is very interesting because I believe they're supposed to be taking it out of commission this month.
That's right.
And so I think it's great that you're proposing it now, so hopefully they can think about it. But I wanted to ask you, is the Juno spacecraft planned to go out of commission this month because they think it's reached its lifetime usage? Is there a possibility that even if they wanted it to stay out there till March, it wouldn't really be able to get the type of pictures we would need or data we would need as 3i Atlas goes by? Is that what maybe some of the hesitation might be towards NASA doing that?
So originally, it was doomed to die by plunging it into Jupiter in the middle of September. And that's simply because the mission ended. And any extension would have cost about $32 million per year. And so it's a question of how to allocate the budget within NASA. And they decided, at least until I approached them, kill the mission, basically in mid-September 2025, around this time. And I said, well, instead of pushing it into Jupiter, just push it away from Jupiter, and it will serve a very important purpose to probe 3i Atlas. Now, it all depends on how much fuel it has in its engine. They haven't fired the engine for about 7 years now. And they don't know how much fuel is left, but it's not a lot. And maybe, so originally, if they had all the fuel that was in the tank of this engine, they could have intercepted 3i Atlas. They could have collided with it. But they have much less, so they will never intercept it, but they could still come close to it, we calculated. The research team says, we want, if the mission is extended, we just want to continue observing Jupiter. Now, you ask me, why is this? Because, they did it since 2011 when it was launched. They dreamed about probing Jupiter, and so they have some inertia of continuing to do what they already did, and they just want an extension of the mission. I offered them help in the sense of saying, here is a new target that could help you get funded for at least 6 months, if not 12 months. I'm not sure whether they would listen.
What is the purpose of crashing the Juno spacecraft rather than just leaving it out there? Is the idea that it will reduce the amount of space junk? Or
if you just leave it, if you just leave it there, with eventually it will crash as well into Jupiter in some long while, but it will not serve any good purpose. So you just don't want it to hang around and without any purpose. It will be just space junk, yes. But I still think that we can get some very good scientific output out of it that is not related to Jupiter, much more exciting. How often do we get a visitor to come so close to Mars or Jupiter? That's an opportunity. And my advice to anyone that goes on a blind date is observe the other side. You don't need to speak much. You don't want to speak much before you know the other side. You don't want to have an opinion before you listen to the other side. So this is what we should do with 3i Atlas, rather than express our opinions about what it should be, and we should just observe it as much as possible. If we see that it's technological, there would be a question, should we message it? If it ends up approaching Earth, there will be a decision to be made, because a visitor to your backyard is a potential threat. The question is what to do about it. It's very different from getting radio signals from thousands of light years away, where you have the leisure of waiting for a while before deciding what to do about it. In this case, you have to decide immediately. Now, I don't imagine politicians or financial people allocating a lot of resources to this subject before we have an encounter, the first encounter. I think we need a wake-up call to change our priorities. Because frankly, right now we are not very intelligent. We are investing $2.4 trillion in military budgets worldwide, and it's all about conflicts on mostly territories or other issues on the rock that we were born on. And there is much more real estate beyond Earth. And an encounter with another technological civilization will change our perspective. My hope is that we would realize we are all in the same boat, so let's cooperate. Let's work together. We are all part of the same family, the human species. Why do we kill each other?
Yeah. I have a question about what is the conservative estimate for how old 3I Atlas would be, and then what's the spectrum of what are people thinking about how old it could be? Because I imagine if it's coming from outside our solar system, which is very, very far away, and I know it's traveling very fast, but it has to be extremely old.
Yeah, so that's another anomaly. I didn't mention it, but its speed is 60 kilometers per second. So it's about 600 times faster than the fastest race car. And I did the calculation because a week ago I was contacted by a car racer in NASCAR who wants to put my image together with a photo of 3I Atlas on the hood of his car.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I told him it's 600 times faster than your car. And in terms of the age, estimating the age, there is one calculation that I did with my student and some other team did, which is given the velocity of this object and the direction where it's coming from, you can try and figure out what population of stars it could have originated from. And it turns out that those are stars that are relatively old, about 10 billion years old, older than the sun. And that is just based on the characteristic speed of those stars relative to the sun, which is similar to this 3I Atlas interstellar object. However, this is not a secure bet because you can imagine the object being ejected from a star at some speed, and then the speed that it has does not represent, it was not inherited from the motion of the star, an additional kick in addition to that. So that's the only thing we know about it. I would love to actually, if we had the opportunity, I would have loved to have an interceptor that would actually land on it and bring some materials from it back to Earth, because then we can examine materials from the environment of another star. And even if it's a rock, we can find out if the building blocks of life as we know it are on this rock. That's a completely different approach to doing astrobiology, to searching for life elsewhere. Right now, the mainstream of astronomy is thinking about, looking for the chemical fingerprints of microbes on exoplanets, planets around other stars. That's a very different approach because it's based on remote observing, whereas here we can actually examine the materials, and it would have taken us millions to billions of years to visit another star. Instead, this object made it to us over millions of billions of years.
Do you think that now that we're starting to see these objects more frequently because of the investment in telescopes and materials that can actually view them, do you think that it is likely that we'll start to fund projects with our own probes that go land on these interstellar objects?
I hope so. It's up to us. You see, priorities depend on the funding agencies, and those are usually decided by committees. And if the committees have people without a vision to explore something completely new, then we won't do that. But I hope that we will build the interceptors. Obviously, if we ever see a technological gadget in our vicinity, we would decide that this is a matter of international security, something that we should protect the Earth from. And so we need an array, a network of sensors and interceptors that would warn the Earth about an incoming technological gadget. It's sort of like a defense, a planetary defense system. And at that point, of course, we would invest a significant fraction of our defense budget in exploring space. And I think that would be great because instead of wasting money on conflicts, we would actually expand our horizons beyond the Earth. And, my long-term vision is that we would like to develop a space platform that can host people. And it's not about going to Mars, because Mars itself is just another rock. And so you're moving from Earth to a rock that has much worse conditions on it. It's a desert. There is no atmosphere. Your body is exposed to cosmic rays, energetic particles that can destroy every tissue in your body within a few years. Why go to a worse environment that nature by chance happened to offer us? Instead, we should build a habitat, on a space platform that we can occupy that would be best suited for a lot of humans. And by the way, that habitat may have dimensions of all the 46 kilometers, the diameter of the estimated diameter, maximum diameter of 3I Atlas. This was the vision of Arthur C. Clarke when he wrote Rendezvous with Rama. It's a book where humans witness a cylindrical object that is arriving at the inner solar system, and it's roughly 20 kilometers in width and 50 kilometers in length, and not very far from the estimated dimensions of 3I Atlas.
Do you think that all of the interest surrounding UAP hearings that have been taking place in more recent years in the Senate and the House of Representatives, do you find that that is a good sign that we're starting to be more publicly interested? At least our government seems to be getting more publicly interested in the topic of UAPs. Do you think, perhaps optimistically or not, that this interest in having these hearings could lead to more funding for some of these space exploration projects?
Yeah, I believe that without seeking evidence, we can't find it. Okay, so when people say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, that's the wrong thing to say. The right thing to say is extraordinary evidence requires extraordinary funding. And you really need to put a lot of effort to take something seriously. New knowledge doesn't fall into our lap. And when Enrico Fermi asked, where is everybody, about extraterrestrials back in 1950, if I was next to him, I would say, Enrico, that's a question that every lonely person asks. And what you tell a lonely person when they ask, where is everybody, is don't be so presumptuous. You're not that attractive. You need to go to dating sites. You need to look through your window for visitors. You can't just sit and ask, where is everybody? And unfortunately, he didn't build the telescope. He didn't search for data. And since he raised this question, a lot of people are trying to find answers to this question without doing the hard work of seeking evidence. So my hope is that we can engage in seeking evidence. That's what the Galileo project is doing that I'm leading. We built 3 observatories searching for unidentified anomalous phenomena, meaning objects that at least the US government is unable to figure out. And we will have a few million objects in the coming year that we will process, and we use machine learning, artificial intelligence, to figure out if any of them is an outlier that is not human-made or natural. And this is the best way for us to figure it out, unless the US government has some information that I haven't seen, or some materials. And in that case, I would love to help them figure it out, because, the government is mostly focused on national security issues. I'm interested in what lies outside the solar system. Anything that is made by humans is boring, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not stepping on their feet. I don't care about things that they care most about. But if they happen to find something from outside the solar system, I want to know about it. Because it's not their jurisdiction to figure out what it means. They don't have expertise in astrophysics, and I will be glad to help them do that if they have it. But I haven't seen it. I briefed the Congress on May 1st and talked about this Galileo project that I'm leading. And I also went to the Pacific Ocean on an expedition to retrieve materials from an interstellar meteor that exploded over the Pacific Ocean about a decade ago. There will be a Netflix documentary about it in 2026, and you can see the details there. That's also part of the Galileo project. So I believe in collecting data that will guide us, and a lot of people just talk about it. Other people within the scientific community just dismiss it and ignore it, and I think that's inappropriate, because if there are objects that the government cannot figure out, they pose, at the very least, a national security threat. Maybe it's some adversarial nations, and we need to figure out what these things are. So if we help government by building sensors and algorithms for figuring out objects in the sky, I wouldn't feel that my time was wasted, because they can still use it in the Department of Defense. Or the Department of War, I should say. One answer to Fermi's paradox, where is everybody, is that they're not far away, actually, but they're silent. And it's called the dark forest hypothesis. And basically, if you are in a dark forest, you have to be careful, because there might be predators out there that you don't know about. So if you make a sound, they will attack you. for you are silent. And so these aliens that survived, there were very vocal aliens that didn't survive very long, and we don't see them anymore. But those that survived are careful at making themselves visible. And so that's why we don't see them easily. But if we are becoming a threat to them, they listen to us, and we were not careful. We were transmitting radio signals for a century now. And if they decide that we are a threat to them, they will come and visit us. That, an object like 3I Atlas would be the way to see it. Some giant spaceship that shows up. All the astronomers argue it's a comet, or it's an asteroid. Don't worry about it. But then it ends up being some technological probe. So we should be aware of that, and of course monitor every object coming into the solar system to figure out if it's a rock or a spaceship. And I invented the scale that is called the Loeb scale, where I rank 0 natural objects and I rank 10 a technological object that is a threat to Earth. So far I give 3I Atlas a rank 4. And of course, if you see a racing car coming on the street that can, in principle, hit you with a 40% chance, you better keep your eyes on that car.
This is kind of crazy. Okay, so he says we're going to be able to see it October 3rd.
That we'll be able to get images of it, hopefully, like closer images of it.
Okay, you know what else is happening on October 3rd?
What?
Just take a guess.
I have no clue.
Taylor Swift's album is coming
out.
out.
Oh my God.
You guys, this is crazy. No, it has to mean something. It is crazy. I feel like it's definitely related. I don't know if this is good or bad, but it's for sure related. Swifties, weigh in the comments. Let me know if you think Taylor Swift is behind this comet. How could she be leveraging this to her benefit?
I may not have the answer to that question. However, I did want to point out, because in the clip, he has actually a really cool idea. He is hoping that NASA will send its Juno spacecraft to intercept the interstellar object 3I Atlas, which will be near Jupiter in March of 2026, allowing Juno's instruments to study it. So,
wait a second. Does NASA have that kind of capability where they can just be like, all right, like, we're going to send out this Juno thing. It's like a private jet. It can just like fly to that location and land. I thought stuff like this takes years to plan.
It does take years to plan and takes years to get where it needs to be going. But this is a spacecraft that's already at Jupiter. That's on Jupiter's orbit. The Juno spacecraft entered orbit around Jupiter on July 4th, 2016. And it's actually supposed to end its mission September of 2025. So this month, at the time that we're recording this, it's supposed to crash into Jupiter's atmosphere, be done with its mission. It's accomplished its journey. But what Avi Loeb is proposing is like, look, guys, you're going to destroy this anyway and remove it from commission. Why not send it on one last final hurrah? Why not keep it out there a little bit longer? And when this interstellar object, 3I Atlas, is crossing through Jupiter, why not have Juno meet it, since it's already going to be out there, and try to get as close as possible to take some pictures and gather data? The odds of this happening are very low, I have to say. However, he is getting some members of Congress involved to try to put in a good word with NASA and plant the idea with them. But Juno spacecraft, apparently it was supposed to be done way sooner than this year, but they keep extending it because they keep having new things for it to do. So I don't know that it can make it past September 2025. That might be one of their excuses. Another excuse might be, well, this is going to cost a ton of money. We're going to have people monitoring, sorting through the data, making Juno go on its new trajectory, point its cameras a different location. I don't know. I don't run NASA, but I'm assuming it's very expensive to do all of this stuff. Jury's out on whether or not this is going to happen, but I thought that was kind of a cool idea he had. He's thinking outside the box, is my point, which is why I think you and maybe our other listeners will enjoy his takes, because he seems to be the only scientist, or one of the only scientists, that is not only vocalizing, hey guys, it could be an alien spacecraft. It has some of these characteristics, but he's also saying, even if you don't believe that, just be open-minded and let's think outside the box, and why not get closer to it? Why not try to get more data? And he's also said several times, I've heard him on a few podcasts, where he said, look, if I'm wrong, who cares? If it's not an alien spacecraft, great. That's the whole point of science. And he also said something really, I hope I'm paraphrasing it correctly, but it was basically like, back in the day, scientists didn't care if they were right or wrong. They were just proposing hypotheses, and if they were correct, great. And if they weren't, oops, okay, no harm, no foul. But now in modern times, because of social media, people are so afraid of being ridiculed because they might lose their job. They might lose their credibility in the scientific world. So then you end up with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who usually are like, aliens aren't real. It's not a possibility. The odds are not in our favor. Like, shut it down, shut it down. When his argument, Avi Loeb's argument is, that's not the true spirit of science. And we should stop caring what people think about us. And as a society, we should stop judging scientists so harshly when they come up with hypotheses. That's all a hypothesis is. It's an educated guess. So we're not saying 100% this is an alien or 100% this is a comet. We're simply saying maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I thought was cool.
I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think that in general, across the board, we should stop ridiculing people for being wrong, in general, just because, it makes it kind of hard to come up with like new ideas if you are just afraid constantly of like how it will be perceived. There's a gray area.
Yeah, I mean, he also did go on to say in one of the interviews I watched that the difference between a scientist and a conspiracy theorist is that a scientist has no problem adjusting their hypothesis based on the facts they are presented, whereas a conspiracy theorist is presented with the facts and continues to believe what they believe in spite of it. So that's the difference.
Wait a second. Was it not the scientists who were getting information about the Three-Eye Atlas not behaving like a typical comet, and yet they were not adjusting their thought pattern to include it as not a comet?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying that Three-Eye Atlas has a lot of unique characteristics, and it could be a comet, it could not be a comet. And as we gather more data, we will be able to adjust our hypothesis more towards it being an alien spacecraft or more towards it just being a comet. But we have to gather the data first.
Semi-related. Do you is it data or data?
I say both.
Does it make a difference when you use it?
No. I think it's regional.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I grew up saying data, and then doing this podcast, I've sometimes said data. I think because we watch interviews where people say data, and so then I'm just mimicking it. But yeah, I use both now interchangeably. I don't think it matters. Data to me is the guy from Star Trek, whereas data to me is numbers and facts and figures and information.
Okay, interesting.
But I love them both.
I picture like a woman from Minnesota being like, the data is showing us something really special data.
But now that we've had this nice little diatribe coming back to science, talking about facts and data and figures, it's time to go a little bit unhinged, because this is Let's Get Haunted, and we are a paranormal podcast that just wants to have fun. Girls just want to have fun, and so do the haunties. So I'm going to send you a TikTok that has a little conspiracy theory tied into Three-Eye Atlas that I thought was fun. Because it's not dark, it's just fun. So I've sent it to you.
Is it dark-sided?
It's not dark-sided, I don't think, but we'll see. We have to analyze it, I guess, through the lens of that lady.
Okay. It says, NASA cuts feed after Three-Eye Atlas unveils unbelievable artificial discovery.
At 2:25 p.m. on June 18th, 2025, just moments before NASA's live feed tracking Three-Eye Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to our solar system, suddenly cut out, something shocking was caught on camera. A single baffling frame flashed across screens, hinting at something in deep space that didn't look natural at all. Was it a glitch? Or had we just witnessed the first glimpse of an artificial interstellar object? The frame itself looked like any other, a dim nucleus, a faint coma, and a hazy tail, all floating in the black void of space. But then something sharp caught the light. A straight line, an edge, geometric, almost metallic, appearing in the lower left quadrant of the image. It didn't belong. Under normal conditions, space debris scatters light in irregular streaks, but this was different. The reflection was too precise, too crisp. Was it possible that what NASA had captured was a piece of engineered technology? Something from beyond our own solar system? Independent astronomers quickly jumped into action, running edge detection algorithms, and what they found was undeniable. A straight line, 37 pixels long, catching the light at an angle that didn't match any known cosmic artifact. It looks like a polished, manufactured surface, metal maybe. This glint wasn't just an optical illusion, it was too deliberate, too perfect. Was this our first evidence of alien technology? But as quickly as the feed revealed this anomaly, it vanished. The blackout that followed added more mystery to the situation. NASA cited a technical glitch, but the timing of the blackout, right after the frame appeared, kept the question alive. What if it wasn't a malfunction? What if the blackout was caused by something outside of expected parameters, something the system wasn't designed to handle? The data is intact. Independent archivists across the globe, the US, Germany, Australia, confirmed the timestamp and even uploaded the raw feeds to decentralized platforms within minutes. The anomaly appears in every version of the feed, matching exactly across multiple sources. Nothing was tampered with. The debate rages on. Is this just a glitch, a cosmic coincidence, or could we have just witnessed the first evidence of something engineered from beyond our solar system? The clock is ticking, and the mystery is just beginning to unfold. What do you think? Was it a chance cosmic ray, or did we just see something artificial? Comment below, and let's explore this cosmic riddle together.
All right, let's, for a second just drink this Kool-Aid and like not get caught up on why they didn't actually show the image that was cut from the feed or whatever. That is crazy if it got cut by NASA. It makes me wonder, like, what if NASA what if 3i Atlas isn't real? Like, what if it doesn't exist and NASA is just showing us that it exists for whatever reason? Because I have heard, and I don't know the full story of this, maybe you're gonna tell us about this. I have heard that like someone predicted some time ago that sometime around now they were gonna say there's some sort of like comet or asteroid that is going to intersect with Earth, and it's supposed to like unite everyone on planet Earth against the asteroid or whatever to like, I guess, usher in a quote unquote new world order.
I think you're describing Project Bluebeam.
I don't know what I'm describing. What I'm describing is whispered throughout the annals of history.
We can never know what we are talking of because of its very nature. It is hidden. That is an interesting theory that maybe NASA is just like they've generated their own footage, kind of like the people who, like, there's people that don't believe in the moon landing. They think NASA generated that. Or maybe there is a manufactured footage of war, like in that movie Wag the Dog that I've talked about too many times. It's not that good of a movie, but for some reason in high school, it really affected me and I really thought it was a good movie. We can't know. We kind of just have to take them at their word that the footage is real. But this glitch that people are saying they saw when they were watching the live feed, people claim that there was this split second of metal straight line on this object, pixels that when decoded, they could tell that it was man-made and not naturally occurring. I don't know why they didn't include the image in that TikTok I showed you. However, if I can find this alleged image, I'll throw it up here on the screen right now. But there was like a 20-minute video that I was watching about this, and it was so frustrating because it was just a lot of circular talking about what people were claiming and what they saw and was it really there, was it not? And then it was like, here's a bunch of numbers. Here's stock footage of people looking through a telescope. And I'm like, wait, is this stock footage or is this actually footage? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It wasn't clear to me, but if I can find this alleged still frame. I'll throw it up here on screen and I'll include it in the photo dump for this week's episode at Let's Get Haunted. There has also been an effort by self-professed remote viewers to either remotely view or astrally project themselves to 3i Atlas to see what they can see, and some of the results have been kind of fun and spooky and creepy, so I'm going to throw those in now. TikToker at Pleiadian.electra claimed that when he tried to remotely view 3i Atlas, he saw it glowing from every single part of it and zooming so fast through the sky that he couldn't get a good lock on it. But he said that he did sense it was an object that had been ejected by a black hole from outside of our solar system. On the YouTube channel Metaphysical, a different remote viewer said that he sensed the object was piloted by an alien race that is currently in contention with another alien race over how our planet's resources are used. Another remote viewer going by the name Farsight said that when he remotely viewed Oumuamua, he found that it was a defunct slave ship on autopilot and that everyone inside of it was dead and there was a giant gaping hole in the hull of the ship. An organized group of remote viewers in Poland did a different remote viewing and found that 3i Atlas is a spaceship with laser technology piloted by humanoid beings with psionic abilities. On the YouTube channel Encounters USA, a remote viewer described that 3i Atlas is a piece of a much larger fleet of alien spaceships made of a magnetic metallic substance that, if touched by humans, causes confusion and harm to our brains. Another remote viewer said that he detected life aboard the ship in the form of robotics, reptilians, and possibly even some humans. But that is the story of 3i Atlas, our third interstellar object, the largest interstellar object to ever be seen in our solar system. It has some weird characteristics to it. Got weird colors. It's got a weird tail. It's doing weird things with its gas. It's big. It's bad. It's on a trajectory that seems to be intelligently guided. However, I guess it could just be a coincidence, but it's more fun. I think it's more fun to think that it is an alien spacecraft because if you're new to this show, I love aliens so much. I wish they would see me. I wish they'd visit me and give me an interview. They won't do it. I don't know why. And I just have a lot of admiration and questions for them. And I want to believe so bad. And so I choose to believe so bad because we all need something to hang on to in this crazy life we're living. It also is going to be behind the sun close to Halloween, which I think is crazy. I just think that's so
crazy.
fun. It gives it like an added little spooky feeling. And so I love this story. I love stories of interstellar objects. We're starting to have more UFO hearings this year. So for those of you interested, I'll be doing a breakdown on Patreon, on our Patreon, if you'd like to tune in for that, because it's way too long for a regular episode. But I just love aliens, can't get enough. The theories, there's only two theories. Either 3i Atlas is a comet that just has unique properties because it's from a solar system that we have no data on. It's from a world that we have no data on, and so it's behaving in a way we don't expect it to behave because we've never encountered these materials before. Or 3i Atlas is an alien probe. It could be a probe, a drone, a spaceship. It could be manned. It could be unmanned. It could be planning on releasing little miniature drones from behind the sun around Halloween and send them down to Earth. I don't know, but I'm certainly going to be glued to my television and TikTok and YouTube during the time that it's going to be here within our solar system. Nat, what do you think? What are your final thoughts? What theory do you like the best?
I think it's crazy that Taylor Swift is releasing an album at the same time that we're going to have all these pictures. I don't know. Maybe the government told her to do that. Maybe they're like, hey, can you please release your album? Yeah, exactly. Like on the same day that it's going to be closed. So that way it gets covered up that this is a strange anomaly or whatever. You know, like could totally be true.
It could be.
My other thought is how creepy would it be if it did get close to us? Ooh, this is spooking me. If it got close to us and we saw that like it was one of our technologies from like the 60s or something. I don't know.
Whoa. Or like an ancient civilization that existed on Earth billions of years ago before we did. They
right, like
were
what if it was what if it had the pyramids on it?
Ancient astronauts.
It was like if found, return to, and then it just has like the pyramids of Giza.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I know that you're on the same wavelength as me, which is at 3 a.m. We're just scrolling through Reddit. And I saw something that maybe you saw too, where people were talking about how the head of the Sphinx has this depression in it, and there's old drawings of people coming out of this depression in the head. And honestly, like, whatever, for people that don't like the pyramids, it's not that cool because it's just another exit passageway or something. But I just love the idea of pyramids. I love the idea of the Sphinx. I love the idea of ancient civilizations. I love the idea of secrets. And so it would be really cool if we get close to the probe, like you said, and we realize, and it says return to sender, and it has the coordinates, and we look, and it's underneath the Sphinx. And then we go underneath the Sphinx to the coordinates, and it's like an underground bunker that has 40 inbred aliens that have been living there for billions of years.
That would be very cool.
Not the inbred part, but just like that they're there. It would be cool.
Very spooky stuff. I love this space stuff. And yeah, this is not my mom's comet.
It's not. It's not your mom's comet. It's not your grandmother's comet. This is a whole new deal. I just wish, though, that the aliens would send a very clear message. And I understand that it's probably not possible because they would be so different from us that it's not like, even if they sent a message, what would their message be? What if they communicate via vibrations? What if they communicate via hand signals? What if they communicate via their 14th eye and we just can't read whatever it is they're sending us? So I understand that it probably won't happen, but I would love if they would just send us a note, just being like, hey guys, it's us. We're passing through your solar system. We're going to check out Jupiter for a little bit. Going to go around your sun. Going to release some probes. Nothing to fear. Bye-bye. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they, communicate with us through dreams or like paranormal phenomena or whatever. And we're just like, oh my God, I saw a ghost.
It could, that's true too. Yeah, maybe they just move things around in our dimension and we think it's a ghost and it's them.
That's like the plot of Interstellar.
Yeah.
You know?
They got it right. It's fact.
Crazy stuff, Aly. Thank you so much for researching this episode. And I am really excited for October 3rd. Definitely not because of The Life of a Showgirl coming out. It's definitely because 3i Atlas is coming. I'm wondering how it's going to turn out. And I'm also curious on how long it's going to be, whether or not it would be a good distance for Aly to showcase her skills as a mid-distance athlete.
We may never know. If you guys want to fundraise money to get me to 3i Atlas, I volunteer as tribute and I will run a 5K on its surface if it's long enough. Thank you guys so much, Haunties, for tuning in to this week's episode of Let's Get Haunted. Thank you to any new listeners who made it all the way to the end. If you didn't like this episode, don't worry. Nat's episode is next week. If you don't like her episode next week, just keep watching, keep listening until you get Stockholm Syndrome and you stay with us forever. And if you did enjoy this episode, feel free to rate us 5 stars. And even if you didn't like it, I would just encourage you to rate it 5 stars anyway. It doesn't affect your algorithm. That's a myth. We've asked before, various platforms. It doesn't affect your algorithm. Just throw us a bone. Say these ladies are showing up. They're doing what they can. One seems super angry. The other one seems super angry in a different way. And then give us 5 stars. Nat, would you like to do our sign off for this week's episode?
Yeah, does it look like I'm holding this ball?
It does. I love it. It's perfect.
Gonna go make my own telescope, so Aly will go on a date with me.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello. You've reached the Haunty Hotline for annual patrons only. If you're receiving this message during our normal business hours of midnight to 3 a.m., that means we're busy attending to other spirits right now. If you'd like us to call you back once the ritual is complete, please leave your name after the beep.
CR.
Tazwa K.
Sarah C.
Jody G.
Dylan.
Sinister.
Blair, as in the Blair Witch.
Cassie, not Cassidy, aka Cassandra.
Chloe Z.
Zoe.
Rake.
Laura.
Elena B.
Julie N. aka Jules the Ghoul.
Ooh, Scary Mary. Grace G.
Tara Lee.
Cool Blues Mama.
Miss Natty Cat.
Shark Michael.
It Me, Ariel G.
Cassie R.
Hannah Mack.
Highness Hiccup.
Gawk. Spookums.
Joshua K.
Julissa D.
Lexi L.
Efrain.
Malik.
Mary Elizabetha.
Sarah.
Sad Girl Shell.
Abby T. Abre S. Aubrey S. Elena B. Alberto Yvonne G. Alex. Alyssa B. Amanda. Annie H. Anita M. Ariel M. Ariel G. Ari. Barb I. Betty T. Blair. Blood Partisan. Bonnie B. Brett is in the bathtub. Callie. Cassandra. Cassie R. Chelsea O. Chingoro. Chloe Z. Chris B. Cosmic Squid. Courtney. Sinister. D. Bowman's 46. Delilah F. Doc Spookums. Dorothy. Dylan D. Ephraim P. Ellie J. Emmy J. Interix. Intrarix. Erica B. Esther N. B. Eunice A. Gabrielle W. Greg A. Hannah Mac M. Hannah M. Highness Hiccup. Jackie G. James H. Jasmine M. Jeb. Jello Riley. Jess M. Jessica P. Jessica W. Jody G. Joey H. Joshua K. Jules the Ghoul. Julissa D. Catherine P. Katie D. S. Katie P. Katie R. Kaylin M. Kevin T. Cool Blues Mama. Laura. Laura O. Lexi L. Locanar. Lupe. Maddie. Maddie C. Malik. Maria S. Marie O. Mars. Mary Grace G. Mary Lizbetha. Maddie C. Meg T. Micah B. Mika B. Melissa W. Michael R. Miss Natty Cat. Nathan. Nazumi Neko. Neve MC. Nicole without the H. Omar M. Perry I. Rachel V. Rake. Ricky aka 1017 aka Eat Your Vegetables. Robin V. Rose B. Ryan G. Sad Girl Shell. Samantha G. Sarah. Sarah C. Sarah R. Savvy. Savvy. Shark Michael. Soleil. Spencer S. Tara Lee. Tazwar K. Tiffany S. Tori B. Uber A. Valerie B. Vanessa L. aka Cloud. Victor L. Whitney T. Wolf Warrior 111. And Zoe L. Thank you all so much for being annual Patreon haunties. Our patrons are the only reason why we're able to make content in the first place, and when you subscribe and pledge for an entire year, it really takes a lot of strain and stress off of ourselves, so we are very appreciative of each and every one of you. If you're listening to this right now and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to shout myself out on a future episode, all you have to do is wait until January 1st of 2026. And you too can sign up for an annual subscription. And now it's time for the secret password. The secret password for this episode that you will comment on the corresponding photo dump posted to @Let'sGetHaunted on Instagram is Thratless. You can spell it however you want. Thratless.